So I'll say this again at the end, but I'm going to talk about it right now. So for the quiz on a week from today, so the next time I see you, you're taking your quiz on the Zoom call. We're going to do it just like the last quiz. You're going to need 2 devices. So you're going to need either your phone and your iPad, or your iPad and a computer, whatever you want to use. One will be for the Zoom, where you're going to position your camera so I can watch you take the quiz, and then whatever other device you want to take the quiz on. It'll be a Canvas quiz. It's going to be 6 questions. It's going to be multiple choice, and you need to show work just like last time. So what I'm going to need to see is how you've set up, if you're doing law of sines, how you set up the proportions. If you're doing law of cosines, how you plugged it into the formula. So no work, no credit. So even if you guess the right answer and you don't have work, or at least show me how you set up the proportion or the equation, you're not going to get credit for the question. So it's going to be important you're showing your work. You're going to turn it into the assignment just like before. So 6 questions, multiple choice, it's open notes. So if you want to write down the formulas and have them on a piece of paper, again, you're using your calculator. So just have everything ready. My advice to you is make sure you've practiced doing these problems, because again, it's a timed quiz. You need to be able to work rapidly. Any questions before I start going through this stuff?
Okay, so how much time do we have to complete the quiz?
I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to give you the full 50 minutes, or we haven't taken it and timed it yet. So I'll post an announcement on Canvas to let you know how long you're going to get for the quiz. So we need to take it first and see, because it is a lot of work. So we may end up giving you like 45 minutes. Generally, a quiz isn't going to be, an entire 50 minutes. So, but I'll post the time. But my advice to you is practice with your calculator. All right. So the things that are on what I'm showing you right now, these are screenshots from the notes. So this first slide here is just the screenshot from the 8-1 notes, and this is the formula for law of sines. Now, remember, when you're doing law of sines, you're not using all 3 of these. You're just taking them 2 at a time. So you could use A and B together, A and C together, or B and C. So again, you just take them 2 at a time, and you're going to treat it as a proportion. You're going to cross multiply and divide. So again, you can have these written down, and you can use this. Then the second thing I'm going to show you is a screenshot from the 8-2 notes. So these are the law of cosines. Now, if you're looking at my work, there's one question where it was a side scenario. And what I ended up doing was I manipulated this equation and solved it for cosine C. So if you want to do this ahead of time, instead of working with it like this, you can do that. You could manipulate any of these. Now, the problem with law of cosines is whenever you're solving for just, say, a squared, you could do that continuous in your calculator. But I would like to see what you're plugging in for a squared, b squared, c squared, a, b, and c, cosine a. However, when you're trying to solve for either cosine a or cosine b or cosine c, this one you can't do continuous in your calculator. So if you'd like to do this ahead of time, what I'm about to show you, and this is what's in the solution file for the quiz review, this is how I solved, I believe it was number 4, the side question, or maybe it was number 5. Let me go ahead and look at that. Okay, so in my solution file for number 5, it was a side situation. And what I needed to find first in number 5 was angle C. And when it's a side situation, you have to use law of cosines first. So what I did to make it a little simpler for me, ahead of time, you could go ahead and rearrange all of these and solve it for either cosine A, cosine B, cosine C. And I'm going to show you how I came up with what cosine C equals, how I got that answer for number 5. So for example, I'm going to take C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine C. Now you don't have to do this. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to isolate cosine C because I want to see what it equals. And it makes it a little bit easier because you can't do this problem continuous in your calculator. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to subtract A squared from both sides. My goal is to isolate cosine C. So C squared minus A squared equals B squared minus 2 times A times B cosine C. Then the next thing I'm going to do is move the B squared. And I'm showing you this step by step, just so you don't get lost. Now this is optional, you don't need to do it, but I do think it makes it a little bit easier when you're plugging things in. Next I need to divide both sides by negative 2 times A times B. It's canceled from here. And now I have C squared minus A squared minus B squared over negative 2 AB equals cosine C. Now, what I could also do is get rid of that negative in the denominator. So really what I could do is multiply the top and the bottom by negative 1 or divide by negative 1, however you want to think of it. So then now this will become, when I distribute it to each of the top, it becomes negative C squared plus A squared plus B squared over 2AB. Now I'm still going to rearrange it, and now I'm just going to put the C squared at the back. So it's going to be A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2 times A times B. And now when you go to solve for angle C, it makes it a little bit easier. So for example, on question number 5, that's how I ended up getting what I plugged in when you look at the review answers. Remember, whenever you're looking for an angle though, whatever I got after I square and add and subtract here and then divide it by this, I have to do cosine negative 1 of this answer. And then that'll give me angle C. So if you want to go ahead and have all of these up top here manipulated and have them already solved for either cosine C, cosine A, cosine B, you could have that done ahead of time. It's up to you. Or you can work with it like this. Either way. So let's look at the next slide. The next slide, again, this is a screenshot from the notes. It was in 8.2's notes. And I'm going to go through and talk about the different scenarios that you're going to be given for the quiz. So case number 1, this was 8.1. And this is either the angle side, or the side angle, however you want to determine it. Or it's also the angle side angle. So the steps that you're going to take when you're given this type of information is you're going to find the remaining angle, because notice you're given 2 angles. So to find the third angle, you're going to add the 2 that they give you and subtract from 180 to get the missing third angle. Then from there, notice you were given 2 angles and a side. You still need to find the other 2 sides. And then when you're going to do that, to find the other 2 sides, you're just using law of sines. It doesn't matter which side you find first. Then the second case, this is the ambiguous case. So this is when you either have the ASS situation or, like they said here, the SSA. Whenever this occurs, you're going to either end up with 0 triangles, because once you look for that first angle, you're going to get an error on your calculator. And then that would tell you that there's 0 triangles. The next thing that could happen is you would definitely get 1 triangle, but there could also be 2 triangles. And I'll go through this again. So whenever this scenario, when you're given information, is either SSA or ASS, you're going to find an angle first by using law of sines. And what you're going to do is find the angle across from one of the given sides. And you'll use law of sines. Then the next thing you'll do is find the third angle, and then you'll add the one you just found plus the given one, subtract from 180. And then lastly, you'll find the third side using law of sines. Now, you could either decide I'm going to complete that first triangle, or what you can do is, that's what I recommend. Just find all the answers, all 6 pieces for the first triangle, then go back, and after you have found this first angle, then you're going to go ahead and subtract it from 180 and add it to the original to see if possibly a second triangle can result. Then the last 2 cases, which are down here with the pink star, these are either the side angle side or the side side side. Both of these are going to use law of cosines first. Now, it's important when you're given the side angle side scenario that you have to find first the missing side of this given angle. So that's what it says here. And then this one you could actually do continuous on your calculator. Then after that, it's important that you find the smaller of the 2 remaining angles first, and then find the other one by using the triangle sum theorem. When you have the side 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 scenario, it's important that you find the largest angle first. And then from there, it doesn't matter which angle you find next. And then to find the third missing angle, use the triangle sum. So if it'll help you to have this chart and have the notes and the steps to follow open for the quiz, you can use this also. So I would have the formulas written down, have the steps to follow for each one of these scenarios, because it's important. If you don't follow the correct procedure, you're not going to get the correct answer. What I'm going to do now is let's look at and let's see what type of situation we have for each of the questions. Now, again, look at number 1. So notice here, I just have all of the answers written down. Number 1 was actually the ambiguous case, because notice I've got the results for triangle number 1 in red, and then the results for triangle number 2 in purple. Now, when you go to do the ambiguous case, this given information of this angle side side, this angle A, this little side A, and this side B is the same for both. What's different is this newly calculated angle B, angle C, and little c. So triangle 1 has a different angle B, angle C, and triangle 2 has a different angle B, C, and side length C. However, the given information is the same for both. So when you have the ambiguous case, and let me just go through this because it's going to jump from screen to screen. So on this one, number 2, and again, it says that the work's on the next page. In order to determine what scenario you have, remember you can label, I recommend you draw the picture, So I was given an angle, I was given a side length, and a side length. So if I go clockwise or counterclockwise, I would go from the A to the S to the S, so that tells me ASS. But if I were to go clockwise, it goes from S to S to A, still same situation. This is the ambiguous case. For number 2, in my picture, I was given a side, I was given an angle, and I was given a side. So this is the side, angle, side scenario. So this tells me that I need to do law of cosines first, and then from there find the other missing pieces. So when I'm given side, angle, side, the first thing I'm gonna do is find the side across from the angle that's given to me. And then from there, I can use law of sines to find either B or C. And we'll see that in the work. Over here, again, let's look and see what was given. I was given little a, little b, and angle C. So again, I was given a side, an angle, and a side. So again, same situation here. I'm going to look for the side across from the angle that was given. That's the first thing I'm going to find using law of cosines. Again, when you're looking for a side length and you're using law of cosines, that's the scenario where I could just do this continuous in my calculator. I would definitely put parentheses around it, or you could write down what you're getting each time. Now, on your quiz, I need to see all of this. So like, for example, number 3 is a good one to show you. So really what I would need to see, I don't need to see this line, but I definitely need to see this. And then if you didn't want to show me, well, actually I would need to see this. You don't need to put this whole thing. Just round it to whatever place is in the multiple choice answers. So if it were tenths place, you could just jump from, you could show me this line, and then you could go to here. So you could also eliminate this one. Then next, after we've found that missing side, now I need to go back and find the other 2 angles. So then you're going to show me the setup of the proportion. And then you're going to show me, you know, how you're solving it, how you're dividing. And then here, if you don't want to show this step, you could jump down to this one, and then you could eliminate this long one and just give me the rounded answer. And then here, this is just the triangle sum, where you're going to add them and subtract from 180 to get the missing third one. Isabella, you have a question?
Yeah, how come for when you did the law of sines, how come your sign is on the top?
Oh, okay. Technically it doesn't matter. I guess I should flip that, because I know when I taught it in the notes, I had put the side length on the top. So yeah, I should be flipping this. So this should be sine A on the bottom. It doesn't matter. So just as long as you stay consistent. Okay, and these are both angles on top, and these are both sides on the bottom. So yeah, that's a good point to bring up. When I did it in the notes, I always put the side length on the top because that's how the formula was. So just know you can flip it. You're still going to get the same answer. Pretty good on that? All right, let's go to the next slide and see our next scenario. So for number 4, I was given angle A, angle C, and side length B. So for this one, let's go ahead and label. This is an angle that was given. I was also given this side length, and I was given an angle. So this is the angle, side angle scenario. So for this one, all I need to do is law of sines. So again, same thing that Isabella just asked. These need to be flip-flopped. That's how I taught it. However, you're still going to get the same answer because we're cross-multiplying and dividing. Then for number 5, now this was a typo if you caught this. Notice all the units, they should all be meters, so you could just erase this C. I didn't expect you to convert that into the centimeters into meters. That was just a typo. So here is the side, side, side situation. And this is where, when I showed you on that previous slide how I solved for cosine C, why I use this formula. However, you could still use c squared equals a squared minus b squared, plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. You could use that. But just remember, I manipulated it to this because I found it a little bit easier. And then number 6, the given information is angle C, side length A, side length C. So this is a side, and an angle. So again, if you go around, SSA, or if you go backwards, it's ASS. This is the ambiguous case. As soon as you try to find your first angle here, so notice this one's already got a match. So the first thing I'm trying to find is angle A. Soon as I try to set up my law of sines and I put it in my calculator, this should have been a red flag, because remember, sine cannot be a number greater than 1. So as soon as you see that, if you recognize that, that should be a red flag that there's not going to be a triangle formed here. But you can go ahead and do it on your calculator. But as soon as you get an error, you're going to just pick the answer that says no triangle. So here is the work. Again, all of these could be flip-flopped. I think last year, this is actually my work from last year. Last year when I taught it, for some reason I put the angle on top. But again, put the side length on top and then the angle on the bottom. So number 1, this was the ambiguous case where it actually gave us 2 triangles. And then here is numbers 2 and 5. So here, this is just going to give me 1 triangle, and then here for the side, 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 1 triangle. So again, remember, the only time you need to check for 0, 1, or 2 triangles is when you're given ASS or SSA. All of the other scenarios, so this is the only time when it's 0, 1, or 2. So again, remember, when it's SSS or SAS or AAS, or you could say it backwards, or this, these are the only ones that only give 1 triangle. This is the only scenario when you need to check for 0, 1, or 2 triangles. So on the quiz, you have 6 questions, and I'll go ahead and write this on a slide. So the quiz has 6 questions. They're all multiple choice. They're all going to be in degrees. So you won't have to convert any minutes. You have to use your calculator. I highly recommend that you have the formulas written down. You must show work. Even if you get the question right and you don't have any work to back it up, I'm going to go back in and take away the points. Does that make sense? Any questions? My advice to you is go back, redo the practice problems. You need to be able to work rapidly. If you want to go back and do any of the evens and you find you want to check your answers, send me an email. I'll take a picture of those even answers and send it to you. But I would go back, do any of the problems from the textbook, make sure you understand the review. Again, you have to show work. I will not see you again on a Zoom call until it's time to take the quiz. So make sure you are on time, because again, it's a timed quiz and you have to do it during the Zoom call. If for some reason you oversleep, like you sleep in or whatever, or you miss the quiz, What I'll do is I'm gonna schedule you a separate Zoom call, and you'll have to take it one-on-one with me, and I'll sit and watch you take it by yourself. So try to make sure you're here, but if you're sick or something, we'll reschedule it. So Canvas quiz, just like before, have the formulas ready, have your calculator ready, make sure your calculator is in degrees, and make sure it's charged and ready to go. Any questions?